Good morrow, gentle souls. It's Shakespeare Day. We have quite a scene to talk about today. This is Act 3. No, Act 4, Scene 3. When we left it, Macbeth had sent his jackals to kill the family of Macduff, who we barely know, but are about to get to know. The scene swiftly flies to England, where we find our two new heroes, Malcolm and Macduff, talking to each other. Malcolm, the son of Duncan, has gone to England to raise an army to ask the King of England for help. And Macduff has gone to help in that regard too. And in the beginning of the scene, Malcolm is saying, I don't know if I trust you. There's lots of stuff going on in Scotland. People are backstabbing each other, and how do I know that you are truthful to me? Now, Malcolm is going to prove himself to be the quintessential perfect king in the eyes of Elizabethan England, in Shakespeare's audience's eyes. A king doesn't have to be good with the sword. The king's sword is his mind. He keeps his country safe by being intelligent, creative, and ruthless. He's kind of saying, I don't know if I can trust you, Malcolm. You know, you're coming here. By the way, why did you leave your wife and children alone in Scotland? And at that point, Macduff, who's kind of a very good man, but not quite as sharp as Malcolm, just goes, you know what, F you. I'm not going to take this. I'm out. I'm going back to Scotland. And Malcolm says, no, wait a minute. I have to be careful. There are too many people who are lying and who will tell me that they're a trustable person, and they're not. So I have to make sure here. And by the way, I am afraid that if we are successful and get Macbeth off this throne and put me on it, that Scotland will be worse off than under Macbeth. And Macduff is like, why is that? Macbeth is the devil himself. And Malcolm says, I grant him bloody, luxurious, avarice, false, deceitful, sullen, malicious, smacking of every sin that has a name, but there's no bottom, none, to my voluptuousness. Your wives, your daughters, your matrons, and your maids could not fill up the cistern of my lust, and my desire all content impediments would overbear that did oppose my will. Better Macbeth than such a one as I to reign. And Macduff is like, well, boundless impertinence in nature is a tyranny. It hath been the untimely emptying of the happy throne and fall of many kings. But fear not, yet to take upon you what is yours. You may convey your pleasures in a spacious plenty and yet seem cold. The time you may so hoodwink. We have willing dames enough. There cannot be that vulture in you to devour so many that will to greatness dedicate themselves, finding it so inclined. So, this is, written in its time, but he's basically saying, Malcolm is just saying, look, I'm very lustful. I go through women like crazy, and that's not good. And Macduff says, well, there's actually a lot of women who would love to sleep with the king, actually. So I don't think it's not great, seriously, but it's, we can deal with that. And then Malcolm goes, well, with this, there grows in my most ill-composed affection such a staunchless avarice that were I king, I would cut off the nobles for their lands, desire his jewels in the other's house, and my more having would be as more sauce to make me hunger more, that I should forge quarrels unjust against the good and loyal, destroying them for wealth. And Macduff is like, Okay, that's really bad. You would set the Thanes against each other so you could get all their shit? Okay, we can still, okay, look, that's horrible, but we can work with it. As I'm sure you have a lot of good things about you that will balance these bad things that you're being so honest with me about. And Malcolm says, no, actually, I have none. I have none, the king becoming graces as justice, verity, temperance, stableness, bounty, perseverance, mercy, lowliness, devotion, patience, courage, fortitude. I have no relish of them, but abound in each division of each several crime, acting in many ways. Nay, had I the power, I should pour the sweet milk of concord into hell, uproar the universal peace, confound all unity on earth. And Macduff breaks. And he says, oh, Scotland, Scotland. Malcolm says, if such a one be fit to govern, speak, for I am as I have spoken. Malcolm says, fit to govern? No, not to live. Oh, nation miserable, with an untitled tyrant, bloody sceptered, when shalt thou see thy wholesome days again? Since that truest issue of thy throne by his own interdiction stands accursed and does blaspheme his breed? Thy royal father was a most sainted king. Thy queen, the queen that bore thee, oftener upon her knees than her feet, died every day she lived. Fare thee well. These evils thou repeatest upon thyself have banished me from Scotland. Oh, my breast, my hope ends here. At which point, Malcolm turns on a dime and says, okay, I'm satisfied. Now I trust you. The truth is, I've been lying to you, but that's the first lie I've ever told. I'm actually a virgin. I don't know what lust is. I don't covet other people's stuff. I barely covet my own stuff. But I had to be sure. And now that I'm sure, I'm yours to command. Because I'm not a warrior and you are, and we're about to go to war. And I need your help. And we fall in love with Malcolm. And we're Elizabethans. We're in the audience of Elizabethan England, and every audience member is like, that's my king. That's how you do it. And then kind of an interesting little scenelet in here. Doctor comes in and describes the King of England as having holy powers of healing. That the king is ministering to the sick, and miracles are happening. It's kind of superfluous. I think that Shakespeare is trying, it's been so dark. This play is so dark. It's tempting as an audience member just to go, I don't like any of these people. I don't care anymore about Scotland. I'm out. It's just a bunch of jerks hurting each other. So it's important to have heroes now that we can believe in. It's important to have hope and light come into this play. It's also important to say that the King of England is pretty much like Jesus if you live in England and are a playwright. So I think it's a little overboard, at least to my modern ear. It's kind of like, okay, you're gilding the lily here, Bill, but whatever. It's a very quick little piece of the scene. So then Ross comes in and tells Macbeth, well, first, Ross is one of the Thanes, we've seen him before, he's one of the Thanes of Scotland. He's traveled to England as well to bring news. Macduff asks him, how are my kids? Are they still safe? And he's like, Ross is like, they were at peace when I left them. And he's equivocating. He doesn't want to tell him the truth yet. Being at peace could mean that there's no problem. It also could mean that they're dead. And Ross tells him, look, we need you back in Scotland. If you come back to Scotland, you could raise a Scottish army. You will create soldiers with your face. Everybody will follow you into battle. So you need to come back and make a Scottish army. And Macduff says, yes, actually, both of us are coming back, and we have also got a bunch of English soldiers. The King of England has graciously lent us his army as well, so we're going to march up to Scotland, and I will definitely raise a Scottish army to add to that. Good. And Ross is like, okay, that's good news. Now I can tell you the truth, because this is going to destroy you. And he tells him that his family has been killed. And it's just heartbreaking. Let me find it. Oh, I can't. It's too. I can't. It would be ridiculous to. It is a heartbreaking scene, and there's, he finds out, and he's just undone. And Malcolm keeps saying, "Hey, well, don't get too depressed, and why are you so quiet? And just have this, put fire into your sword, Macduff. We're gonna take care of it." And Macduff just looks at Ross and glances at Malcolm and says, "He has no children." It's one of my favorite lines of Shakespeare. He can't understand this pain. He doesn't have kids, but anybody in the audience with kids knows. And we fall in love with Macduff because we feel his pain. But that doesn't stop them. Macduff is like, you know what? I want to have a talk with Macbeth. Let's go to Scotland. And they leave. And we have our new heroes. At the point when we basically, Macbeth has crossed so many lines, he's unredeemable, and we need new heroes if we're going to continue this play. And these are them, Malcolm and Macduff. It's a scene that has to be cast well. Boy, is it so important about who you cast as Malcolm. Sometimes it's not that well cast. He's it's not as large of a role. So, they don't use their best actor. They put the best actor in one of the larger roles, but you've got to find a great Malcolm. Macduff is always pretty well cast. He's always a big guy, It's not as hard to cast that role. Malcolm is a harder role because he's not a fighter in a play about fighters, but he has to appear strong. And if you get the right actor in that role, this scene just flies. And without that, it just lays there and is a big problem. So if anyone produces Macbeth, make sure you have a rockin' Malcolm. Okay, 13 minutes this week, but it's a very important scene, kind of a long one. Okay, see you next week.